Here we go. All right, can you tell me a little about Nebraska's film industry and where you see it going?
Okay. Nebraska's film industry right now, I would say, is more independence. People that love to storytell. They're doing a little bit of everything. They'll do music videos. They're doing commercial work. They're doing corporate industrial, and they're making movies because they love to make movies. I would say we really don't have a real paying industry where somebody could work on a movie every week or work on a movie every month. We get big movies that come through every so often, but when you run into a big union style movie, they bring their people from out of state and maybe hire extras, PAs, stuff like that. So hopefully the industry can grow where there's more paid professional jobs.
Okay. Is your mic fine? It's not rubbing up against the shirt or anything? It looks better now.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Can you tell me about? Let me shut the door.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, question number 2. Can you tell me about your involvement in films that are filmed in Nebraska?
Ooh, my involvement in films in Nebraska is I teach at Metropolitan Community College, and I would say 75% of my students that come through the program want to make movies, want to be in the film industry. And so I know a lot of people that do independent film, past students, people in the market. A lot of the local filmmakers have came through our program or have connections to our program or have helped people out with things. I've helped get crews for people that come from out of town, so documentary filmmakers. There's a lady from Lincoln that came back and did a feature movie in Fremont with a small budget called The 12 Days of Giving. So I think a third of her crew was past Metro students and Metro students that helped with that. So kind of a little bit involved with the film industry, but I mean, like I said, I get calls from lower budgets, documentaries, things like that.
Okay. Can you tell me about some of the professional videography work you've done in the state, Nebraska?
My background is corporate industrial commercial work, so educational work. So I shot commercials for a little ABC affiliate, and then I was a producer director in an educational environment. So kind of my background is a jack of all trades. So as a producer director, corporate industrial, educational, I do everything. So I wouldn't say I'm just a cinematographer. So I would say I'm more of a shooter, production person.
And you've been doing that for how many years now?
It's going to be 30 years pretty soon.
Wow, 30 years. How do you think movie production in the state would affect the economy if it became bigger?
It'd be good. The way the movie industry could affect Nebraska is they would bring people in. So filling up hotels, feeding crew in restaurants. If you could get bigger productions in here that they shot over a 3 to 6 month period, you know, they have to buy food, they have to do hotel rooms, they might buy things from local vendors. If we had enough crew, union crew in Nebraska, they're high paying, good wage jobs. But like I said, there's not enough union shows that come through Nebraska. And the big shows that come through, they bring a lot of their own crew because, you know, a lot of our people that would do film style work are working other jobs or they own other companies. And because I'm trying to think, the movie that won Best Director for the Academy Awards this year was part of it was shot in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, but how long were they here? You know, there's a movie on Netflix they shot out in Scottsbluff. You know, they brought their crew from New Mexico. So we really, it'd be great to have an industry here. But the other problem you have if you look at the history of filmmaking in Nebraska is the movie industry wants to be able to do things on a budget. We don't have tax incentives here in the state. So I know the state film commissioner, and she gets a phone call, and one of the first questions is, what kind of incentives do you have for us to shoot your movie? And she'll say, we don't have incentives, and the phone call's over because they can shoot other places more affordably because they have tax incentives and incentives for them to shoot in other states.
Yes, I was doing some research on that. It's actually, I think the state law about the movie and tax incentives here, it's like LB 043 or something, and it's basically, it's not a lot of things they can help you with. It's like one or two things, and that's it.
And the state said the localities could do things. So like Fremont's had some stuff happen. There's somebody that really is involved in it around Fremont. Valentine's had some things come through. So the local communities can do some incentive type of stuff with people coming in, but the state of Nebraska doesn't have anything. And that's one thing the people that want to bring the industry to the state have been fighting for that as long as I've been at Metro for almost 27 years, and they've been talking about state tax incentives for the film industry. You know, every few years a group is trying to get the state legislature to do something, but they don't see the big picture of, they think we're giving the industry money to come here, and it's like they don't see the other part where the industry can bring money in or create good paying jobs.
Yes, I was going to say that because I was reading some of the Nebraska senators, their statements on that they were basically what they said they didn't really think it'd bring much profit to the state of Nebraska.
And the sad thing about that is, last 2 Marches ago, right before COVID hit, I had 4 students graduate in March from the community college. They all moved to LA. So when we talk about brain drain, you know, they moved to where the industry was. So you lost 4 people that could be paying taxes here in the state with a career, but they, you know, there's nothing for what they wanted to do here, so they might live in California for the rest of their lives.
Interesting.
Sounds kind of negative, doesn't it?
It does. But it's a good thing to know. So that's one of the challenges of filming in Nebraska. I don't think there's really any other ones besides that. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what other challenges could there be filming in Nebraska? Probably getting people out here to film.
Well, and if you have a big enough budget, we don't have the human resources to do stuff. I mean, you got to figure Atlanta and LA are the 2 main places. New Mexico has stuff. Michigan was doing things. Pennsylvania. They have crews. They have, you know, so if you're going to do a big budget movie, the crews are right there. They're ready to go, like in New Orleans. You know, if a big movie came here, you might not have all the infrastructure and everything to do it. So that's where they have to bring stuff in.
Okay. Make sure everything's right here. Yeah, we're good. Okay. What are some of the advantages of filming in Nebraska, you think, or could be advantages for a movie independent filmmaker, or maybe just like a union filmmaker crew that wants to come here and make a movie?
As an independent filmmaker in Nebraska, we don't have the rules like a LA, California would have. I mean, people would be very welcoming to you. If you went into a small community in Nebraska, you'd get a ton of support. You know, and we have beautiful locations. I mean,
yeah, I heard they do a lot of filming out in western Nebraska, like that film
yep.
you just mentioned.
If you're making a western Nebraska would be great. And we have beautiful sunsets, beautiful a lot of different land. We have cities, we have, you know, a lot of wide open areas. We got hills, we got flat areas. So, and the people are nice here. When they say Nebraska nice, it's kind of true.
I've heard a lot of people, I've heard people have wanted to shoot in Dundee before, but maybe found it too complicated because it was so compact, that, you know, area around the University of Nebraska Omaha.
No, I don't know. I mean, you could have parking issues, like if you had to park a whole crew. I had a student that is an AC1 out in LA working for America's Got Talent. And he was talking about, like, one of the issues if you're got a big production is, where does your crew park? And then they might have to take buses from the parking area to where the shoot is. And I thought that was interesting that, so you got to have signs to tell the crew where to park, and they get on a bus and they take the bus down to where the production's being shot. And I thought, that's interesting, but I couldn't imagine working on that big of a production where that's a thing where you got to figure out where you're going to park and where you're supposed to meet, and with all your call sheets and stuff. And hopefully, I mean, we have some homegrown filmmakers. You never know where somebody could hit it big. One of our famous film people is John Bokenkamp, and he produced The Blacklist, which is a TV show on it. I forget how many years, and he's based out of Kearney, Nebraska. You know, so we need maybe some more people like that make it big, and then they decide they want to come home and work out of the state.
Okay. So some of your students have been involved in films in Nebraska, correct?
Yeah. I mentioned the 12 Days of Giving, which we had quite a few people on that crew. I think it was a 2-week shoot. Her name was Christine Conrad, and she's originally from Lincoln, but she's been out in LA. She does a ton of Lifetime movies. If you ever looked her up on IMDb. And her dad came to one of my classes. So her dad, I think, lives in Wayne, Nebraska. So he was driving her around, making connections. So she came and presented it in class one day, and she picked up probably 5 or 6 crew members from our students. So I had an assistant camera on that shoot. I had a handful of other people that worked on that shoot. I never got out there, but I think it was a good experience for our students. And it was only about a $250,000 budget. And, you know, I think she used it as a way to come home and spend some time with her family, and low budget feature film in Fremont.
What was her name?
Christine Conrad. And I think it ends with a T if you look her up on IMDb.
Okay. Comrade or
Conrad.
Oh, Conrad.
I think it's C-O. I can look it up when we're done.
Okay.
But living in LA, probably late 40s, talk about the brain drain. You know, she went to school at one of the big film schools out in California and never came home.
Jeez.
But on the other side, some kids, I mean, a lot of like younger generation, they want to leave and see the world. I have a son that he's not in the film industry, but I don't think he ever has a desire to be in Nebraska. He wants to see the world and try different places out. I would be surprised if he ever came back.
I understand. I think we kind of covered this already, but maybe you want to add to it. So what are your thoughts on Nebraska state government not providing incentives for filmmakers who want to film in the state?
I understand it. I mean, we're kind of a conservative state. We're scared people will take advantage of, or we won't get the bang for the buck if we bring them in. And it's kind of a sad thing about the industry is they want to make, I mean, it's life. You want to make things as cheap as you can make them, you know, because you got to make a profit still. I mean, I have an instructor here, and one of his favorite thing is this, it's called show business. It's not called show art. To be successful, you got to make a profit, you know. So that's one of the things too is that keeps them out of here is, you know, they have to make a profit and they got to make money and do things as on a budget also. So if they don't have, if one state offers them better incentives than us, and I don't know, has anybody told you examples?
I know there's a list. I was looking at a list online where states like Florida or Iowa might provide better incentives, and that has the list of what they provide.
Yeah.
So I've seen.
So like a good example is the film Up in the Air
Yeah.
with George Clooney. He's based out of Omaha. They shot 3 scenes in Omaha. They shot a weekend in Omaha. All the other Omaha stuff's in St. Louis. Know why? St. Louis looks like Omaha. But on top of that, like My Big Fat Greek Wedding was the top grossing independent film ever. And I don't know if it still is. They shot in Canada. It's based in Chicago. But, and that's why so many movies were being shot at Canada. Canada used to be the hot spot for shooting films because they had such good incentives to shoot your movie in Canada.
Yeah, I was going to add, I worked at a Omaha Fashion Cleaners for 13 months. I was doing video marketing intern, so I just made promotional videos promoting their services. And one of the owners, who was one of my supervisors, Kermit Ang, he said something like, a lot of politicians, they haven't really been in the business world, so they're kind of blind to what the benefits are of Nebraska being involved in the film industry.
Yeah, another good example that people don't think about is film tourism. I have a coworker that him and his family did Atlanta this summer. And the reason they chose Atlanta is because of the television show on Netflix. Is it Stranger Things? They went to Atlanta to go to all the sites where they shoot Stranger Things.
Wow.
And he was talking about they were actually ran into a location where they were actually shooting and got to watch for a little bit. So there are people that will base their tourism on things like that.
Yeah.
So that's another little added feature that, let's say they shot the most popular movie ever, people would go there and spend money.
It's kind of like the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, or the Shiny. Well, Shiny actually was.
And it wasn't shot well.
Oregon, yeah.
They actually did.
Yeah.
Did they do the TV? They did another movie
Yeah.
that they did shoot the second movie there, I think.
Yeah.
And Dumb and Dumber was shot at
Yeah.
the Stanley too,
Yeah.
or not, or parts of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I've seen that. Where do you see Nebraska's film industry going in the next 10, 20 years?
Hopefully we produce some people that make it into the industry, and hopefully they get famous and they move back here. And like Alexander Payne is one of our probably most famous filmmaker at this point in time. And every so often he brings a movie back to Nebraska because I think he's from here. He sees the benefits of doing stuff in Nebraska. So hopefully we have more people that make it big. You might look up I think it's called the West Coast Connection or something. And it is a group of people that live in LA that are from Nebraska or have Nebraska ties. And the kind of the neat thing about COVID, they moved a lot of their meetings online and with Zoom. So in the past, they'd have a meeting in LA. How would people from Nebraska make connections and get to that group? But now with COVID, with things on Zoom, I sat in a meeting this year, and that John Bokenkamp spoke about the blacklist, and I thought it was really interesting. And I wanted to go the next month because there was a person that was presenting the next month that was in the writing room for Better Call Saul, and she had Nebraska ties. So there's a lot of Nebraska ties in the industry, and there's people that go back and forth, that they go out there, they come home, they base out of here, but yet they work. Because the other example is like a Mike Hill, who was the editor for Ron Howard. He lived in LA at one point, but he worked out of Omaha later in his career, I think. And he edited a lot of Ron Howard movies, and he's based out of Omaha.
Yes. Well, the Nebraska Nebraska Cornhuskers covered the 13.5 point spread this weekend?
I hope so.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
I don't know what you know what's good, Liam?
What?